issues with cracking. And so if you get it to the point where it's just kind of got just a little bit of motion, it's kind of like a partial soft leather hard, if you will, that's usually when I have the best luck attaching the next sections. Let's see if I... one other thing, when I wedge, you notice I kind of sort of do the conch shell wedging. I don't know, Leverage, you do the conch shell wedging?
That's a spiral wedge, I'm not sure.
Or spiral?
Yeah.
Same thing.
Yeah.
Kind of has that little conch shell look when you're wedging it.
Right.
I never put the spiral down, and the reason why is I was in undergrad, and I was making 14, 16-inch platters, and I was losing 9 out of 10. And so what I did is I just flipped that spiral upside down and go down on top this way, and I lost 1 out of 20.
Wow.
So something as simple as that can save a ton of platters, bowls, cups, basically anything.
Are you spinning the opposite way too? I mean, to keep it, I gotta think about that.
I don't know. I can. Well, here, I'll show you which way I wedge, and then you can think about that while I'm. It is actually the opposite.
Yeah, the opposite way.
So, sometimes I can feel it unwinds. Most of the time, I don't really know. Either way, it saves a whole lot of pots from cracking in the box. And we tend to be a little bit of crackophobes. Yeah, we don't like cracks.
9 out of 10, that's pretty bad.
I was not a happy camper because I was spending eons with ribs, with fists, with everything, like compressing that as thick as I could, and every time I was losing 9 out of 10. I'm like,
you did that, you wedged that differently than you did that one?
no, same way.
Same way? Okay.
And I guess what we're talking about is like when you wedge, the clay builds a stress and it wants to come back the other way. And so by reversing it, you're actually relieving that stress, is what I'm thinking. Is that right? Is that what we're talking about?
I have no idea.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
All I know is it works.
Yeah.
And
I know a lot of people have reversing wheels for that same reason.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
They'll go one way and then...
When they trim, they'll do an opposite way just to take the stress out.
Huh.
If they built up any stress, going one way.
Yeah, I don't know. So for the big jars, what I generally do is I'll generally get it kind of flat, like a pancake. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that up to the wheel head. And then pull that out. If you have it too tall, as you're pulling it out, most times what will happen is you'll actually get some water underneath where that clay is getting pushed down, and it'll just finally get to a point where it'll just twist off and run off. And then when I get to the point where it's close to the outside, I'll actually push down on the top while I'm pulling that out. It also helps it kind of stick to the wheel head. And I don't want to throw this ring too thin, because I'll actually throw it in the opposite direction once I attach it. So I just want to have it basically thick enough that it's not going to have too much tension, too much when I'm making my pulls on the big jar. And I'm going to come back in, I'm going to push that outside edge down a little bit. And what this will do is this will help me have a little bit more leeway with when I'm attaching it on top here. So just take a, do you guys have serrated ribs around? So if you take a serrated rib, just score it real quick. I don't add any more water to the piece. And then just come with your wood knife. And what I'll do is I'll just give it a little bit of a bevel down at the very bottom there. What that'll do is that'll help with running my wire tool underneath it without it like taking a big chunk out of the rest of the clay.
So guide your wire.
What's that?
Kind of guide your wire.
Yeah. Perfect. And this is only one way that you can do this. You can you can build it up with coils and throw the coils. I prefer this method because I can get stronger attachments where the seams are, and I can go a little bit more each pass, whereas coils you have to let it sit up a little bit longer. Now this one I do want to score a little bit more, and then I'll add a little bit of water. That's just because it's a little bit drier. But these are my favorite things to make. The place I work at, there's 9 wheels that I can use, so I can work on 9 of these things at the same time, so I can just go down like an assembly line, which is always fun, because after about 4 or 5 days of throwing, you go through about 1,000 pounds of clay. So what I'm doing is I'm just trying to line that up as close as possible. Get a little tap on the bottom. And wire tap. Thank you. Just pull that straight through. And voila. You now have another section. You might break a couple if you try this your first couple times. Again, I was in grad school and I had one on my wheel. That's alright. I had one on my wheel, and one of the screws on the foot pedal was starting to come loose. And it was only about yay big, had a nice big belly. It was the only one I made with a big belly on it. Or like a really round. And next thing I know, I'm going to turn on the lights in the studio, and you can just hear this, boom, 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 boom. And the wheel of the foot pedal dropped and kicked my pot off into my studio, which didn't only kill that pot, but probably like 6 or 8 that were in there already. So that was a bonehead moment. Luckily, it's just dirt, and I can make more. So you notice I'm just kind of compressing that edge down. What that'll do is that'll kind of work out any air bubbles, and also compress that seam a good bit. once I do that, then I'll come in with a rib on the inside and a rib on the outside and just kind of go over that seam a little bit. And you'll actually hear all the little air pockets popping. So that'll help kind of compress that seam and eliminate it from causing any other issues. So once I get that, then I can go about making another pole and throwing that up higher.
What's if I zoomed out, did you just not use slip for a reason, or?
I use slip on the bottom part.
The bottom
Well,
part.
I like added a little water and then squirt it again.
Yeah.
But on this part I didn't use any slip because it's already so soft. It's already got a ton of water in it.
Okay, I see. It wasn't like any kind of fear, like hot air pockets or anything like that?
Nah.
Okay.
So at this point, once I get to this next section, I want to make sure that I'm not adding a bunch of water, because if I add a bunch of water like I have been, it's going to soften up everything in the bottom, and it's going to cause some issues with that getting soft. So you just got to be a little bit more conservative with the water. So then I can come down to where that seam was. Start making another hole. And if you can get used to working with it a little bit wetter, there's some serious advantages.
I cut that off instead of like taking a picture, I push the button and turns it off. I'm gonna take a picture.
And then I'm not really too worried about, like, you'll notice that it has this little bevel on the top here. I'm not too worried about that. I'll just take a needle tool, cut that off, and then go on with the next section once it sets up a little bit. So hopefully, we'll let this thing set up a little bit. Maybe we'll throw it in the other room. Hopefully we'll be able to get one more on there, because I'm not quite happy with it yet. I'll just come in, take off that top a little bit.
How were the Chinese potters?
What's that?
How were the Chinese potters?
Awesome. Backwards. We have so many rules that they're like, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't attach dry clay to dry clay, you can't attach, you can't dry trim, it's too much of a pain, there's stuff going everywhere. The Chinese basically do all that. They can take a dry piece of clay, like the big Chinese jars that have the blue and white, they basically throw maybe anywhere from 4 to 25 sections, and then just build it up, trim it down. Put the next section on, add a layer of slip and some dry clay, put it on top, trim it down. And so,
Is this porcelain?
this is porcelain. And so I've actually started employing some of those horrible habits that we're not supposed to do, especially when I'm working with student stuff, because some of the pieces they have just little pieces that broke off or something like that, so add a little slip and you can fix it like new. So it's kind of nice because I could just be like, we can change that.
Sounds fun.
It is kind of fun. But you know, I was talking where it's if it's still a little bit wet, you can actually come in and you can actually change the shape, push the belly out a little bit more. And so this is kind of the state that I try to keep it at. Because then I can come in and I can actually resolve any issues that I'm having with the form itself. And most importantly is be cautious of the inside shape. Don't worry about the outside. Because you notice that on the outside I have these like little bumps and stuff. I'll actually just trim those off later on. So then I have a theory, I'm not sure if it's true or not, but if you have clay that goes thick then thick then thin, thin then thick then thin, because it's thin, it's actually going to get a little bit hotter, and that's where you get those little bumps that kind of go where those sections are. And so that's my theory. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think that's why most of my pots very rarely get those spots where it's like you can totally tell where there's that little section added on.